All right, ready to explore some Aztec gods.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, we're diving deep into their stories, who they were, and like what they stood for, you
Their
know?
whole worldview.
Exactly. It's kind of wild, honestly, epic imagination, but also like really human drama mixed in.
It's what makes mythology so interesting to study, right?
Totally.
You've got the historical and cultural side, but then these stories, you can interpret them creatively too.
And people do, which can help us understand them even better.
For sure.
So we've got excerpts about some major players in the Aztec pantheon, plus that crazy story of how the sun and moon were created.
And then a fictional take on what these gods might get up to on, say, a modern vacation.
Right. Like, what if they went on vacation?
Exactly.
Okay, so you've got this whole cast of gods, right? Each one represents different forces of nature, parts of society, even like abstract ideas. Like, take Quetzalcoatl, for example, often shown as this feathered serpent, which is just,
Oh, yeah, he's a great example of how the Aztecs valued, like, knowledge, creativity, all that.
how so?
Well, Quetzalcoatl, he's linked to the wind.
Okay.
And wind, that's breath, life itself, you know.
Ah, I see.
Plus, he's connected to Venus, the planet, so
That-
there's this cyclical aspect too. Time, the cosmos.
So it's not just, oh, cool, snake god. There's like layers to it.
Exactly. Then you've got Quetzalcoatl, god of war,
Okay.
the sun and sacrifice. Now, that might sound intense right off the bat,
It kind of does, yeah.
but to get Quetzalcoatl, you got to get Aztec society, like, at its core.
Tell me more about that. What does his role tell us?
Warfare, it was central to their whole empire.
Yeah.
But not just for land. They had these flowery wars,
Yeah.
ritualistic battles.
Oh, okay.
The goal, capturing captives to sacrifice to Huitzilopochtli.
Intense.
They believed those sacrifices. That's what kept the sun going, kept the world running, literally.
Wow. Talk about a different worldview. Right? Even something as brutal as war, it's tied up in this whole spiritual belief system.
Yeah,
Makes you think their gods weren't distant figures. They were woven into everything.
exactly. And that brings us to Tulak, the rain god.
Okay.
Given they relied so much on agriculture,
Yeah.
you can imagine how crucial he was.
Rain meant life or death for their crops, so.
Absolutely. Controlled rain, lightning, thunder forces they could nourish or destroy.
No kid.
Shows that deep respect, maybe even fear, the Aztecs had of nature's power.
And that fear, it wasn't just the physical world either, right? They
Yeah.
had gods for the darker, more mysterious side of things, too.
Yeah.
Like, what about Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror god? That name alone is kind of freaky.
Get ready for this. He embodies duality.
Duality.
Like, for every force in the universe, there's an opposite.
Okay.
So he's linked to darkness, sorcery, even temptation.
Oh.
But important to remember, in the Aztec view, these things weren't good or bad inherently.
Part of the natural order.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a reminder that life's full of contradictions. We've got to acknowledge the light and shadow in us, in the world. And then there's Kotlikue. Now she's a striking figure.
How so? Give me the details.
Well, Kotlikue. Oh, she's often shown wearing this skirt, right? But it's made of, like, writhing serpents and a necklace of human hearts, severed hands, the whole deal. It's a intense but powerful, you know?
Yeah, no kidding. I guess it shows that duality of nature, right? Life and death, all wrapped up in one.
Exactly. You can't have one without the other. The Aztecs, they didn't shy away from that. It was all part of the balance.
It's interesting how the Aztecs, they didn't just fear those darker parts of life, they like embraced them, you know, as part of, I don't know, the natural order of the universe.
Totally. And speaking of balance, we got to talk about how the sun and moon came to be.
Oh, yeah, that's a wild one. So what's the story there? What happened to the old sun? Why'd they need a new one?
Okay, so the Aztecs believed there were, like, 4 worlds before ours.
Really?
Yeah, each one with its own sun. But they all ended badly.
Badly how? Did the suns just like burn out or something?
More like, yeah, imagine jaguars eating the sun.
Eh.
Or hurricanes, so powerful they just put it out.
Whoa, okay. Talk about dramatic.
Each era, each world, it had its own weakness, you see.
So how'd they get out of that mess, the last apocalypse? Like, how do we get our sun and moon?
The gods knew they had to do something, right?
Right.
So they all met up, had a little divine powwow, and decided one of them had to, you know, make the ultimate sacrifice.
You mean?
Yep. Throw themselves into a fiery pit to become the new sun.
Talk about pressure. Who volunteered?
It was actually 2 of them. Nana Watson, a pretty humble god, linked to healing mostly.
Okay.
And then Tezcatlipoca, now he was all about vanity, opulence, you know, the type.
Yeah, I could see the conflict already.
You got it. So they both prepared, fasting and praying the whole 9 yards. But then, when it came time to take the plunge, jump into the fire.
Yeah.
Tikistakatl, he choked, got scared.
I mean, can you blame him? Who wouldn't be scared?
For sure. But Nana Watson,
Yeah.
he didn't even hesitate. Just boom, jumps right in. Becomes the son we know today.
What a boss move. That's incredible.
Total power move. Tikistakatl, though.
Yeah, what happened to him? Did he just, like, slink off?
Not exactly. He was ashamed.
Hmm.
So we followed Nana Watson in. But the fire, it wasn't as intense by then.
Ah, so he became
The moon, yeah.
forever dimmer, always in the shadow of Nana Watson's sacrifice.
Wow, that's poetic, It's like this whole myth, it really shows how much the Aztecs valued sacrifice. Absolutely. And not just like literally dying, but sacrificing your ego, your ambition, all that.
Right, putting others first. It's a good message.
It is. This story, it wasn't just about the sun and moon, It was a whole metaphor for how the world works, how people should be.
Huh. Okay, so that's the serious side, but what about that other detail in the moon myth?
What's that?
The rabbit. You've got this whole story about gods and fire and sacrifice, and then there's a bunny just chilling on the moon's face.
Oh, right. Yeah, that always gets a chuckle.
How'd that happen? Like, did the Aztecs just have a weird sense of humor?
Maybe. It's in a bunch of versions of the myth, though. One story is, right as Tikistakatl about to jump in,
Yeah?
this rabbit, it leaps onto his face, leaves a mark, and that's the dark spots we see today.
No way. That's hilarious and kind of creepy at the same time.
Right. Hard to say if there's a deeper meaning with the rabbit, or if they were just messing around with the story a little.
I kind of hope they were messing around.
Me too. But hey, rabbits, they're linked to fertility, cleverness, even cycles of life and death, rebirth, all stuff that does fit with the Aztec worldview, if you think about it.
True, true. Speaking of unexpected twists, let's talk about their modern take on the gods we mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one.
So we've got this story, right? Solotl, god of lightning, bit of a trickster.
Total prankster, that one.
And Mayahu, goddess of agave, all about celebration and, well...
Good times?
Exactly. And they end up at Oktoberfest.
They do. In disguise, of course.
Oh, who are they pretending to be?
Mimes.
Mimes, seriously.
Yep, mimes.
Solotl, the lightning god, dressed as a mime.
I know, right? It's like perfect. The ultimate prankster, hiding in plain sight.
It's kind of brilliant, actually.
And then there's Mayahu, goddess of agave, at a festival celebrating, well, let's just say fermented beverages.
Yeah, okay, I see where you're going with this. It's like a match made in a slightly tipsy heaven.
Exactly. So picture this Exalful and Mayahu, right? All decked out in their mind gear, blending in.
And they run into some tourists.
Better than that, they bump into Confucius.
Wait, hold on. The Confucius?
The one and only.
What's he doing at Oktoberfest?
Hey, it's a fictional story. Anything goes, right?
I guess so.
But, like, imagine him there doing some research, trying to learn about different cultures.
That tracks, yeah.
Expanding his understanding of humanity, all that.
So what happens? Do they have a philosophical debate over some pretzels?
Well, Exotl being Zolotl.
Oh, no, I can already imagine.
He can't resist messing with Confucius a little, right? Starts using, like, mime moves to explain lightning.
Oh my God, I can totally see it.
Hilarious, right?
Confucius is probably just, like, nodding politely, trying to figure out what's going on.
Totally, a culture clash moment. The story uses that kind of comedic situation to show how differently we all see the world.
I love it. What about Mayahu? What's she doing during all this?
Oh, she's all about sharing the fun. Like, picture her miming offering Confucius a drink.
What's it like? Pulque. That Aztec drink made from agave.
Probably.
And Confucius, being the ever-so-open-minded philosopher, he takes a sip.
Of course. Always up for trying something new.
Right.
And meanwhile, Zolotl, he's like sending little sparks of lightning across the sky.
I bet Confucius didn't even flinch. Just, yes, quite a potent beverage indeed.
Totally. So what's the point of this whole Oktoberfest story, you ask?
Well, yeah, besides the pure entertainment value.
It reminds us, even these ancient gods, they can still surprise us. Sometimes, the most insightful moments come from the most unexpected places, right?
That's a good point. It's like how we've been talking about the Aztecs this whole time, right? Their beliefs, their stories.
And it's not always serious. Gotta have a little fun, too.
Exactly. But even with the funny stories, we still learn something. So, we've explored these gods, how the Aztecs saw the universe, that intense creation myth. If you had to pick one thing that really stood out to you about the Aztec gods, what would it be?
Good question. I think it's how connected they were to everything. to nature, to life and death, even to like human emotions. They weren't these distant figures, you know? They were part of the world, all the good and the bad.
That's a great point. It's been an amazing journey, honestly. From the creation of the sun and moon all the way to a divine Oktoberfest party. And you know what? It's got me thinking. What if we could ask these gods a question? Who would you choose and what would you ask? Let us know because the conversation doesn't end here. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of you.